Aaron Hernandez. He was the Patriots' golden tight end, a Pro Bowl talent at just 23 years old. But in June 2013, the NFL world froze when police swarmed his mansion in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. Inside, they found evidence tying him to the brutal execution-style murder of Odin Lloyd, a semi-pro player and boyfriend of Hernandez's fiancée's sister. The trial in 2015 gripped the nation. Former teammates testified. Forensics painted a damning picture. Hernandez was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. The Patriots cut him the same day of his arrest, scrubbing his name from their record books. Just 2 years later, another bombshell. Hernandez was found hanging in his prison cell in April 2017. He was only 27. His experience became a haunting tale of wasted talent, violence, and tragedy that continues to shadow the NFL. O.J. Simpson. In the 1970s, O.J. Simpson was more than a running back. He was the face of football, a Heisman winner, an NFL MVP, and later a Hollywood star. But in June 1994, everything changed. Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were found murdered in Los Angeles. What followed was the trial of the century. Cameras rolled as Simpson's defense team fought to dismantle the prosecution. He was acquitted in 1995, but his reputation never recovered. Civil court later found him liable for the deaths, ordering him to pay millions in damages. Then, in 2008, Simpson made headlines again, this time convicted of armed robbery and kidnapping in Las Vegas. He served 9 years before being paroled in 2017. By the time of his death in 2024, O.J.'s name had long since shifted from glory to infamy. Henry Ruggs III. In 2020, Ruggs looked like the future of the Las Vegas Raiders. Blazing speed, first-round draft pick, star potential. But one November night in 2021 ended it all. Ruggs, driving his Corvette at 156 miles per hour while intoxicated, slammed into another car. That car burst into flames. Inside was 23-year-old Tina Tintor and her dog, both killed instantly. The NFL world recoiled in shock. Within hours, the Raiders cut ties with Ruggs. In 2023, Ruggs pled guilty to DUI resulting in death. He was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in Nevada State Prison. Once destined to be a franchise cornerstone, Ruggs became a sobering reminder of how a single reckless decision can destroy lives. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'll greatly appreciate it if you could show support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Rae Carruth. The Carolina Panthers thought they'd drafted a future star in 1997 when they picked wide receiver Rae Carruth in the first round. But by 1999, he was plotting a crime that would shock the sports world. Carruth conspired with accomplices to murder his pregnant girlfriend, Cherika Adams, after she refused to terminate her pregnancy. She was shot 4 times while driving. Miraculously, she called 911 and named Carruth before slipping into a coma. Doctors delivered her baby prematurely. Chancellor Lee Adams, who survived but lives with cerebral palsy due to the trauma. Carruth was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 18 to 24 years in prison. Released in 2018, he returned to a world that had long since condemned him. His name is forever etched as one of football's darkest stories. Michael Vick. In the early 2000s, Michael Vick was the NFL's ultimate highlight machine. The Atlanta Falcons made him the first overall pick in 2001, and by 2004, he had taken them to the NFC Championship. His speed and arm changed the quarterback position forever. He was one of the league's most marketable stars, earning over $100 million in contracts and endorsements. But in 2007, Vick's empire collapsed overnight. Federal investigators uncovered his role in a brutal dogfighting operation called Bad News Kennels, run on property he owned in Virginia. The details horrified the public. Dogs electrocuted, drowned, and killed when they failed to perform. Sponsors abandoned him instantly. That summer, Vick stood in federal court and pled guilty to financing the ring and lying to investigators. The judge sentenced him to 23 months in federal prison. The Falcons voided his contract, and bankruptcy soon followed. For nearly 2 years, the man once hailed as football's future sat in a cell. When Vick returned in 2009 with the Philadelphia Eagles, he salvaged part of his career, even winning Comeback Player of the Year in 2010. But the shadow of those crimes never left him. He went from revolutionary quarterback to convicted felon, forever remembered for how he destroyed his own legacy. Lawrence Phillips. Few running backs in college football history had the raw dominance of Lawrence Phillips. At Nebraska, he was nearly unstoppable, helping Tom Osborne's Cornhuskers win national titles in 1994 and 1995. The St. Louis Rams made him the 6th overall pick in the 1996 NFL Draft, but Phillips brought baggage. Even in college, he had been suspended for assaulting his ex-girlfriend. In the NFL, those issues grew worse. He missed practices, clashed with coaches, and his violent temper showed up off the field. Released by the Rams in just his second season, he bounced briefly to Miami and San Francisco before being blackballed. After football, Phillips's life unraveled completely. Arrests piled up, domestic violence, assault with a deadly weapon, and eventually charges of driving his car into a group of teenagers. In 2008, he was sentenced to 31 years in prison. In 2015, while serving time, Phillips was charged with murdering his cellmate. Months later, in January 2016, guards found him dead in his cell. His death was ruled a suicide. A once promising running back had become a tragic example of wasted talent, undone by violence he could never control. Darren Sharper. As a 5-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion with the New Orleans Saints, Darren Sharper looked like a lock for Canton. He was charismatic, popular with teammates, and a fixture on NFL Network after retirement. But in 2014, Sharper's double life came to light in shocking detail. Police investigations across multiple states revealed a horrifying pattern. Sharper had been drugging women's drinks and sexually assaulting them. Cases surfaced in Louisiana, California, Arizona, and Nevada. The sheer scope of his crimes was unprecedented for a former NFL star. In 2016, Sharper pled guilty in multiple jurisdictions to drugging and raping women. Federal court in New Orleans sentenced him to 18 years, while state courts added more time. His once glamorous reputation disintegrated into infamy, with headlines calling him one of the NFL's worst predators. Sharper's fall was catastrophic. Not just a career ended, but a Hall of Fame resume forever erased. Kellen Winslow II had the pedigree. The son of a Hall of Fame tight end, he was drafted 6th overall in 2004 by the Cleveland Browns. His athleticism promised superstardom, but injuries slowed him. Still, he managed a Pro Bowl in 2007 and appeared destined for a solid career. But off the field, Winslow's life took a darker turn. In 2018, he was arrested in California after women came forward accusing him of sexual assault. Over the next year, disturbing testimony emerged. Multiple women, some homeless, described how Winslow had preyed on them. In 2019, a jury convicted him of rape and other sexual offenses. He later accepted a plea deal covering additional charges. In 2021, a California judge sentenced him to 14 years in prison. From promising first-rounder to convicted sex offender, Winslow's downfall stunned the NFL. His name, once tied to his father's legacy, now sits in the record books for all the wrong reasons. Sam Hurd looked like a player on the rise. Signed by the Dallas Cowboys as an undrafted free agent in 2006, he carved out a reputation as a reliable special teams contributor and earned a $5 million contract. By 2011, he was with the Chicago Bears, viewed as a locker room leader and a hardworking veteran. But Hurd was living a double life. Federal investigators revealed that while catching passes on Sunday, he was allegedly negotiating multi-kilogram shipments of cocaine and marijuana. According to court filings, Hurd told an informant he wanted to distribute massive quantities of drugs across Chicago. The scale of his operation stunned fans. This wasn't recreational use, it was trafficking. In December 2011, FBI agents arrested him outside a Chicago steakhouse after he allegedly tried to buy multiple kilos of cocaine. He was released by the Bears within 24 hours. In 2013, standing before a federal judge, Hurd pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute narcotics. His sentence, 15 years in federal prison. From a respected role player to a convicted drug trafficker, Sam Hurd's story was a sharp reminder that sometimes the biggest battles NFL players face aren't on the field, but off it. Choices that can destroy everything in an instant. Ray Rice was a superstar. Drafted in 2008 by the Baltimore Ravens, he became a 3-time Pro Bowler and led the team to a Super Bowl victory in 2013. Small in stature but powerful, Rice was beloved in Baltimore and known as one of the league's most dependable running backs. But in February 2014, a single act ended his career. Surveillance cameras captured Rice punching his fiancée, Janae Palmer, in an Atlantic City casino elevator. The footage showed him knocking her unconscious and dragging her out of the elevator. At first, the NFL suspended him for just 2 games, sparking outrage nationwide. Then, the full video leaked later that year. Public opinion turned instantly. Sponsors cut ties. The Ravens released him, and the NFL imposed an indefinite suspension. Though Rice won an appeal and was technically reinstated, no team would touch him. By age 28, a Pro Bowl career was over. Rice later spoke publicly about his actions and campaigned against domestic violence, but the damage was done. Donte Stallworth had everything going for him. Drafted in the first round in 2002, he played for multiple teams and was known as a speedy wide receiver with a knack for big plays. But in March 2009, his life changed forever. After a night of drinking in Miami Beach, Stallworth drove his Bentley while intoxicated. On his way home, he struck and killed a 59-year-old pedestrian, Mario Reyes. Stallworth immediately cooperated with police, admitting he had been drinking. His blood alcohol level was above the legal limit. The courts moved quickly. Stallworth pled guilty to DUI manslaughter and received a sentence of 30 days in jail, 1,000 hours of community service, and a long probation period. The NFL suspended him for the entire 2009 season. Though Stallworth did return to football in 2010, his career was never the same. He played sparingly for Washington in 2011, and by 2013, he was out of the league. He later transitioned into media work, but his name remains tied to that tragic night when his decision to drink and drive cost a man his life. Plaxico Burress was a Super Bowl hero. A former first-round pick by the Steelers, he became a household name with the New York Giants, famously catching the game-winning touchdown in Super Bowl 42 against the undefeated Patriots. He was at the peak of his career, living in the spotlight. But in November 2008, Burress made a mistake that would cost him dearly. At a Manhattan nightclub, he carried an unlicensed handgun tucked in his waistband. The gun accidentally discharged, shooting him in the leg. No one else was injured, but the fallout was immense. New York's strict gun laws meant serious consequences. Burress was indicted on weapons charges and, in 2009, pled guilty to attempted criminal possession of a weapon. A judge sentenced him to 2 years in prison. The Giants released him, and his once bright career was derailed. Burress returned to the NFL briefly with the Jets and Steelers, but he never regained his former dominance, Antonio Brown. Few NFL players have had a rise as meteoric, or a fall as chaotic as Antonio Brown. Drafted in the 6th round by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2010, he became one of the league's best receivers, racking up 7 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pro selections, and over 11,000 career receiving yards. But behind the highlights, turmoil followed. In Pittsburgh, he clashed with coaches and teammates, eventually forcing his way out in 2019. The Raiders signed him, but his bizarre behavior, helmet grievances, missed practices, and confrontations led to his release before he played a game. Brown briefly joined the Patriots, then the Buccaneers, where he helped win Super Bowl 50 in 2021. Yet scandals trailed him: a civil lawsuit for sexual assault, multiple arrests, and erratic public outbursts. In January 2022, during a game against the Jets, Brown ripped off his jersey mid-game and stormed off the field, an iconic moment of career self-destruction. By 2025, his legal troubles escalated even further. A Miami-Dade warrant accused him of attempted murder linked to a shooting incident. Once destined for Canton, Antonio Brown is now remembered as a Hall of Fame talent who sabotaged his own life at every turn. Johnny Manziel wasn't just a college star, he was a phenomenon. At Texas A&M, Johnny Football won the Heisman Trophy in 2012 as a redshirt freshman, dazzling fans with his improvisational magic. The Cleveland Browns drafted him in the 1st round in 2014, hoping he'd resurrect the franchise. Instead, Manziel imploded. Reports of hard partying, late nights, and poor preparation surfaced almost immediately. On the field, he struggled, starting just 8 games over 2 seasons. Off the field, he faced even bigger problems: domestic violence allegations, substance abuse, and multiple stints in rehab. By 2016, the Browns released him. No other NFL team would take the risk. He attempted comebacks in the CFL and the short-lived Alliance of American Football, but his skills never matched the hype again. In interviews, Manziel later admitted to battling depression and substance issues during his NFL years. Josh Gordon looked like he was destined for greatness. Drafted by the Cleveland Browns in 2012, he exploded onto the scene. In 2013, he led the NFL with 1,646 receiving yards, despite missing 2 games. His combination of size and speed drew comparisons to Hall of Famers, but Gordon's demons quickly caught up with him. He tested positive for marijuana multiple times, violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. Suspensions piled up. First 2 games, then 10, then entire seasons. Each time he seemed ready to return, another failed test would push him out again. The NFL reinstated him multiple times, including stints with the Patriots, Seahawks, and Chiefs, but he never regained his All-Pro form. Off the field, Gordon admitted to battling addiction from his teen years, saying he often played games under the influence. Though he showed flashes, by the mid-2020s, his career was effectively over. Gordon's fall wasn't about violence or crime. It was about a battle with addiction that cost him the chance to become one of the greatest receivers of his generation, Justin Blackmon. When the Jacksonville Jaguars selected him with the 5th overall pick in 2012, they believed they'd found a franchise wideout. A 2-time Biletnikoff Award winner at Oklahoma State, Blackmon had all the tools to dominate in the NFL. His rookie season showed promise, 64 catches and over 800 yards. But off the field, issues emerged quickly. Blackmon was arrested for DUI before he even played a snap. Then came repeated violations of the league's substance abuse policy. In 2013, he was suspended indefinitely after another failed test. The arrests didn't stop. He was cited for marijuana possession, DUI, and later alcohol-related incidents. In 2015, reports confirmed he hadn't applied for reinstatement. And by 2016, Jaguars officials admitted he'd likely never return. In 2025, Blackmon resurfaced in headlines again, arrested in Oklahoma for public intoxication. Once seen as a can't-miss prospect, his career ended after just 20 NFL games. Aldon Smith entered the NFL like a force of nature. Drafted 7th overall in 2011 by the San Francisco 49ers, he recorded 14 sacks as a rookie and 19.5 in his second season, one of the most explosive starts by a pass rusher in league history. He was named first-team All-Pro and looked like the anchor of the 49ers defense for the next decade. But off the field, Smith's behavior became increasingly erratic. In 2012, he was arrested for DUI. A year later, he crashed his car while drunk and was charged with possession of illegal weapons. In 2014, he faced felony charges for allegedly making a bomb threat at an airport. Each incident led to suspensions, fines, and mounting concern from the league. The 49ers finally released him in 2015 after yet another DUI arrest. Smith later signed with the Raiders, but more arrests followed. Domestic violence charges in 2018 ended his comeback attempt. Despite later opportunities with Dallas in 2020, the version of Aldon Smith who once terrorized quarterbacks was long gone. From All-Pro at 23 to out of football within a few years, Smith's downfall was swift and relentless, a talent squandered by alcohol, violence, and self-destruction. Titus Young was drafted by the Detroit Lions in 2011, a speedy receiver from Boise State with big play potential. As a rookie, he flashed glimpses of star power, scoring 6 touchdowns. But behind the scenes, problems were brewing. By 2012, Young was openly clashing with teammates and coaches. He deliberately lined up in the wrong position during games, arguing with staff, and was eventually sent home by the team. The Lions released him in 2013. What followed was a downward spiral. Within just 1 month in 2013, Young was arrested 3 times for burglary, assaulting a police officer, and attempting to break into a home. His family later revealed he suffered from severe mental health issues, including bipolar disorder and possible brain trauma. Travis Henry was once a feared running back for the Buffalo Bills and later the Denver Broncos. Drafted in 2001, he rushed for over 1,300 yards twice and looked like one of the league's toughest backs. But Henry's personal choices would unravel his career. Off the field, Henry made headlines for fathering at least 11 children with multiple women, leading to massive child support obligations. Financial troubles mounted as quickly as his reputation faded. In 2008, his life took a darker turn. Federal investigators charged Henry with financing a multi-kilogram cocaine trafficking operation. Prosecutors alleged he was the mastermind behind a drug ring stretching across multiple states. Facing overwhelming evidence, Henry pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute cocaine. In 2009, a judge sentenced him to 3 years in federal prison. Keith McCants was the 4th overall pick in the 1990 NFL Draft, a linebacker out of Alabama who looked destined to dominate. He signed a multi-million-dollar contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and was hailed as one of the best defensive prospects of his generation. But success came too fast. McCants admitted later he wasn't prepared for the money, fame, and pressure. After injuries derailed his play, he turned to painkillers, and addiction soon followed. By the mid-1990s, he was out of the league. The years after football were bleak. McCants was arrested dozens of times, mostly for drug-related offenses. He blew through millions, struggled with homelessness, and became a frequent subject of NFL bus documentaries. He spoke openly about regret, admitting he squandered his opportunities. In 2021, McCants was found dead in Florida at age 53 from what authorities believed to be a drug overdose. His story is one of the most tragic and disturbing tales in NFL history. A man with limitless potential, undone by pain, addiction, and bad decisions. Jovan Belcher seemed like the ultimate success story. An undrafted linebacker out of Maine, he clawed his way into a starting role with the Kansas City Chiefs. Teammates praised his relentless work ethic. Coaches said he had leadership potential, but behind the scenes, cracks were widening. On December 1st, 2012, tragedy struck. After a night of arguing with his girlfriend, Cassandra Perkins, Belcher shot her multiple times in their home. Then, in a surreal and haunting moment, he drove to the Chiefs' training facility. In front of his head coach, general manager, and other staff, Belcher thanked them for the opportunity and then turned the gun on himself. The murder-suicide shocked the NFL. Perkins left behind a 3-month-old daughter, Zoe. The Chiefs played their scheduled game the very next day, with players openly weeping on the sidelines. Belcher's death sparked debates about mental health, brain injuries, and domestic violence in the NFL. What should have been a rising career turned into one of the darkest days in league history. Chris Henry was one of the NFL's most talented but troubled receivers. Drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in 2005, his speed and athleticism made him a dangerous deep threat. But almost immediately, trouble followed. Between 2005 and 2008, Henry was arrested multiple times for marijuana possession, DUI, and assault. He earned suspensions from the league and the label of a player who couldn't stay out of trouble. The Bengals released him in 2008, only to re-sign him later, saying he had changed. In 2009, Henry's story took a tragic turn. During a heated argument with his fiancée, he jumped into the back of a moving pickup truck she was driving. Witnesses said he pounded on the windows, yelling for her to stop. Moments later, he fell from the truck and suffered fatal injuries. He was just 26. Henry's death left teammates stunned and fans wondering what might have been. A brilliant athlete undone by instability, his story has become a symbol of wasted potential and tragic endings. Ricky Williams was supposed to be the face of the Miami Dolphins when they traded a fortune to acquire him from the Saints in 2002. On the field, he delivered, leading the NFL in rushing in 2002 with over 1,800 yards. He was powerful, charismatic, and at his peak looked like one of the best running backs of his era. But Williams struggled with fame and pressure. Known for his introverted personality and mental health battles, he began self-medicating with marijuana. In 2004, just before training camp, Williams stunned the world by announcing his retirement at 27, still in his prime. He later admitted he walked away partly to avoid a looming drug suspension. Williams returned in 2005, but suspensions continued. He missed the entire 2006 season for violating the league's drug policy. Though he later rebuilt his career and played until 2011, his reputation never fully recovered. Today, Williams is more remembered for walking away from the game than for his dominance on the field. He remains a complex figure, part tragic, part trailblazer. Art Schlichter. Long before the era of million-dollar contracts, Art Schlichter was supposed to be the next big quarterback. Drafted 4th overall by the Baltimore Colts in 1982, he had the arm talent and poise to be a franchise cornerstone. But he carried a devastating secret, a gambling addiction. Almost immediately, Schlichter fell into debt with bookies. To cover his losses, he borrowed from teammates, coaches, and eventually turned to fraud. By his second season, he was suspended by the NFL for gambling violations. His career never recovered. What followed was decades of criminal behavior. Schlichter was in and out of prison for fraud schemes, often targeting unsuspecting victims with fake ticket sales. Even after release, he reoffended. His name became synonymous not with football success, but with wasted opportunity and compulsive self-destruction. Schlichter's case remains one of the starkest examples of addiction ruining a career. He was a top 5 draft pick who never won a single NFL game as a starter and spent more of his adult life behind bars than on a football field. If you enjoyed this video, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Thank you very much.